Hey friends, Kim from stampingandperfection.com. Thank you for joining me today. I have a mini book project that I'm making today, and as a gift for my mother, I'm making her a gratitude journal. So I'm going to create a mini book, and I've created a Word document with like at least 30, I think it's more than 30 writing prompts that a person could use for a gratitude journal. And I make a nice envelope and cut them apart and put them in. That Word document is available on my blog at stampingimperfection.com if you would like it. And I left it as a Word document so you could modify it to suit your needs. I'm starting with these products from TLC Designs. That die set is the See You in the Center die set. I love this. It's an interactive die set, but I love the frames. I feel like the shape is so vintagey, and this project turns out to be have a really vintagey feel. So I actually am using the Happy Bouquet digital flower set stamp from TLC Designs, and I'll put the links to all of this stuff below. I printed it with my printer, and before I did that, I added the 30 Days of Gratitude myself and picked a font that I liked, and then I printed it out, I die cut it, and I colored it with my Altenew alcohol markers. And I used my Altenew markers because they come in a set of 12, so there were 4 greens, 4 reds, 4 blues, and I didn't have to think about what colors to layer together today. So I don't know why I felt like I just didn't want to think about it. So the Altenew markers make that very easy, and they're really affordable. If you really want to learn how to color with alcohol markers, but you don't want to, shell out a big amount of cash, the Altenew markers are a great way to do that. Now I just did a wash around it, which is very hard to see on camera, but basically I used the Scattered Straw Distress Oxide. I wanted a light yellow wash just to give it an age look. I squished it on my mat, spritzed it with some water, and then just swished it around the floral image. And when it dried, some of the black lines looked a little light, so I'm just going over them with my Le Pen. This is the 0.1 size, and it's perfect for going over the lines on images if you think that they got a little washed out or something, you want them to be a little darker. I'm using the Chipped Sapphire to give it a little splatter, and I'm going to actually also splatter on some of the scattered straw as well. I'm going to put that aside to dry. Now I have this great, this is a piece of cardboard that I got from, it's like, it came inside a traveler's notebook to kind of help it keep its form during transport, I guess. But when I pulled it out, I thought, wow, that would make a good mini book. And so I had this in my head. So like I knew somebody was getting a mini book for something. And Mom's birthday is in January, so it'll be perfect. So I don't have to fuss with chipboard or anything like that. I'm just going to use this directly like it is. Now I have this gorgeous paper pad from American Crafts. This is called Preserved Paper. And I picked it up because I loved that it had all these cut apart things in it. But it's also got some really pretty paper. It's got quite a vintagey feel, and that's kind of what I was going for. I think that my mom will like this a lot. And I'm going to end up creating a book that goes sideways, but actually I think that will be easier to write in anyways. So I've taken a couple of bookbinding classes from Vicki Boutin. She has them free on her YouTube channel, friends. So definitely go watch an expert do it. And she uses double-sided sticky tape just along the edges when she's doing her books and along the spine of the book. So I'm going to put this double-sided sticky tape along the edges and down the spine. And it's a good idea to use a little liquid glue in the center of the front and back cover. And I wish I'd done that. I usually do. I don't know why I chose not to this time. I'm just trying to decide which way I want, what I want to be the front cover, and I want to make sure it's right side up. So I'm just placing this down now. I've got the adhesive on there. I'm going to trim this paper down, and I'm just eyeballing it, not measuring anything. I'm not trying to prolong this project, and I'm mitering the corners, and I haven't made a mini book in a couple of months, so I miter them a little too close to the cardboard, so leave a little bit more paper, so your mitered edges don't allow the cardboard to show through. I just cut off too much here. I was not being careful enough. I was trying to be quick. And so I will fix that. It won't be a big deal at all. So I'm just folding over the edges. And the best thing to do, because I'm noticing this paper cracks a little bit as I pull out my bone folder, is to actually score around the cardboard. So just score around the cardboard, because this actually breaks down the fibers in the paper. So when you fold it over, it doesn't crack. And had I realized how much this paper would crack, I should have scored the spine folds before I put the paper on. But you'll see that the paper does crack along the spine folds, but that's okay, because the bookbinding classes I took from Vicki and Heidi, they always put a really pretty piece of paper on the spine of the book, and I am going to do that, and it'll cover that up. It won't matter. And the inside paper will cover up. I'm going to make it big enough to cover up the poor job of mitering I did here. Next time I'll be more careful, and I'll have it perfect, but it doesn't matter because I can fix it. So I had also been watching some videos from Nick the Booksmith, I think that's the name, and she uses this glue called Fabric Tack for her books. So I actually used her affiliate link and purchased some to give it a try. So my preferred method will still be using double-sided sticky tape, because I didn't put the glue close enough to the edges of this, so there were a couple spots I had to go back to and add more glue. And I don't like to touch adhesive because I'm allergic to it, so that's why I didn't get it close enough to the edges. This is not the fault of the glue. This is me trying not to touch the glue. So, this is a very good glue. It's clear. It worked really well on the parts I put it down on. So you can see I'm being careful not to touch it. So I'm going to put that aside and cut a second piece of paper from that same stamp set, or same, paper pad. And I'm cutting this down. This is 11 by 9 inches. So I'm trying to do this in a way that I save as much of the flowers as possible, because my mother loves to garden and she's always got fresh flowers on her table. And this time I am going to score that inside paper, and I'm measuring to make sure I get the measurements correct. So I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers scoreboard here, and I'm just going to score 5 inches from each side, because the inside covers are 5 inches, the spine is 1 inch, so this will work out perfectly. And this is the all-in-one tool that We Are Memory Keepers came out with, and I really like it. It's got a lot of stuff. Plus it's a nice big scoreboard. So I burnished those really well with my bone folder, and I'm just deciding which piece I want to be the front. And again, didn't add enough. I've gone back 3 or 4 times to add more glue, and then to try not to touch it, I use my favorite bone folder. Don't do that. So I just grab my rag and make sure I sop up any extra glue. Now I'm going to use the double-sided sticky tape here and put it all around the edges and down the spine. I'm going to cover that spine really well. And like I said, it's a good idea to put some liquid glue in the middle of the covers, the front and back covers, and I forgot to do that here, and you'll see that the paper, I didn't quite get the paper flat enough. So I put the paper down, and now this is one of the Heidi Swapp tricks I learned. She uses a fine sandpaper and goes around the edges and distresses the edges a little, and it allows you to round the corners, and if the paper hangs off a little bit, it takes that off. But I love the distress look with the vintagey look of the papers. So when I put this down, I'm trying to like really, you know, get it to fold easier, and you can see it's that paper's definitely cracking because I did not score the blue, but it's okay. I've got this scrap piece of the inside paper which I love, so I'm just really giving it a good, you know, press here to try to really make that easier to close, although I will put like elastic or something on there to close it. So I'm going to cut that inside piece down, so I'll just measure. I'll pull out my my Fiskars. Now I have my Fiskars. And I measured that to be 9 inches tall, so I'm just cutting this down. And I'm cutting off a little from each end because I'm preserving the flowers. So I'll pull out my scoreboard again, which also has a cut, like it's also a cut, like it also cuts the paper. It punches, it's got an envelope punch, it's got a tag punch, it's got all kinds of things, a pennant punch. It's crazy. There's a stamp positioner on it, which is the only part I don't really like. Everything else about it I love. So I'm really burnishing the score marks that I made. And this was 3 inches wide, so I burnished it 1 inch from each side because the spine is 1 inch. So I'm just going to cover this with the double-sided sticky tape. I'm going to cover the whole thing because I want this to stick really well to the outside. And then I will put this down on the outside. And to do that, I'm opening up the cover and I'm holding up the edges and I'm really lining it up really well with that fold on the book spine there, so that I put it down perfectly. And I love the way that looks. Those two papers are just so pretty together. And had I used the other side of the paper, it looks good also. So now I'm going to put the decorative piece I made down. And it doesn't fit the other way. It only fits this way. So that's the way it's going. And you'll notice here that I also added a brown mat to the front. That frame set has several pieces. And here I'm just showing you how it's crinkling a little in one spot because I forgot the glue. But that frame set has a larger frame piece that cuts out a beautiful mat, and it looks so pretty underneath that. I used a dark brown because I thought it looked nice with the deep blue and the vintage look of the almost tea-stained look of the paper I used on the inside and the spine. So now I've created 3 signatures. I've created the inside pages, and I put 6 pieces of cardstock together, and I cut it down to fit in the book, and I left it a 1/2 inch shorter than the length of the book and a 1/2 inch shorter than the width of the book. So I've got 6 pieces together. I scored them all, and I'm going to put a hole through the score mark, and I've got that Crop-A-Dile set so it goes in 1 inch. So every time I punch that hole, I can line it up so that each hole is the same distance from the edge. Ordinarily I would use my larger Crop-A-Dile and put a hole in the center also, but I don't have that with me, so I'm just using my smaller one. And the smaller one is nice and easy to manage. This is really this is also a We Are Memory Keepers product. I really like this Crop-A-Dile set. It came in that plastic case, and it came with a bunch of eyelets, and I've been using a lot of eyelets lately. Eyelets and brads. I'm going back to some of the old things. So now I'm going to, and by the way, I used the 1/16 punch for the pages. I'm using the 3/16 actually it was 1/8 for the pages and 3/16 for the book cover. So I just punched this out the book cover, and I'm putting eyelets in the book cover. I love the way this looks. Like in mini books, this makes it look like you bought it. Like this is one of those details. So the pretty side goes out. Then I'm going to use the crimper and just crimp it together, and the inside gets crimped. And I'll do the same thing to the other end. And I chose the black eyelets. I have a bunch of different like colors of metal eyelets. Plus I had white ones I could have used, but I really liked the black. I don't know, every now and then I feel like you need that dark color to offset all the light colors. So I have this thin elastic cord, which I was finally able to find online over the summer, but it was hard to get because you know, you can use this to make masks, and I have used this to make some masks. But I'm just testing it out. I'm making this like a traveler's notebook. So my signatures are going to slide in there. I thought that would make it easier for my mother to write in, and she could pull these out and write in them and then slide them back in, because that elastic is really easy to pull. Now I'm going to put 3 of those elastic bands in, so I'll add 2 more of those. But I also want to add a closure to that. So I will put a brad on the front of that, and I started out with an elastic piece. Now to bind my signatures together, I have 6 pieces of cardstock together. And you could use regular copy paper. Nick the Booksmith uses all different kinds of papers and mixes and matches, and it's really fun, but my mother's not making an art journal, so I thought this would be good paper for her. Probably the lighter paper would have been better, but the copy paper, but I don't know why I grabbed this. It's just habit. I like using cardstock in the mini books I make because I tend to attach pictures, and she may very well do that. So I'm using this gold thread I have that was in my stash because my goal is to use up my stash first before I buy anything new. So I'm using this thread from my stash. I think it's an old Stampin' Up thread that I bought during the holidays one year. It's been in my stash forever. So I fed it through the 2 outside holes, and now I'm feeding it from the inside back to the outside on both ends. So it's double. So this is double on the inside, double on the outside. Now I'm just going to tie a really good knot there. This stuff knots really well, this metallic thread. So I'm just going to put a little double knot, and I put the knot for the thread on the outside because the elastic knot's going to be on the inside. And I'm just going to thread that through. Just open it up to the center, pull it through one of the elastic bands. I have 3 elastic bands because I have 3 sets of pages there, and that takes care of that. Okay, so I did put that elastic piece on, and I had made the eyelet on the front, but then when I used the elastic, I realized it goes right over that pretty floral piece that I made that I spent so much time coloring and drying and putting a wash and splatters. I don't want to cover it up, so I'm going to use some ribbon because after I did the elastic, I realized that I had some ribbon that I got on the clearance rack at Stampin' Up. I like Stampin' Up's ribbon, but I only buy it if it's on clearance, and I happened to find a roll I liked. It's like a linen look, so it's kind of perfect for this project. So I put another eyelet on the back cover, and I'm just going to tie a double knot, trim off the frayed edge, trim it down. I'll put a piece of ribbon on the front, and that way I can tie this shut. So don't forget you can get the printable prompts on my blog at stampingimperfection.com. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel while you're here, and click the bell so you get notifications every time I upload a new video. I hope you enjoy this project. I'll put the links to the TLC products below, and to the Altenew artist markers, because they're quite a good deal if one of your goals is to learn to color this year. Thank you so much for watching, and Happy New Year!